Here I am in Waterton Canyon at the very start of the Colorado Trail. This trail goes from here all the way to Durango, Colorado, which is 480 miles away. The question is, will my much used 64-year-old body get strong and fit or get broken? Whichever way it goes will decide whether or not I'll make it or how far I'll go. I'm about 3/4 of a mile of the way into it so far, so that leaves 479 and 1/4 miles to go. So we'll keep you updated. Catch you later. Bye. Okay, rest break number 1 on the Colorado Trail. So here's the deal. Don't put off shit to your 60s if you really want to get it done. I've lived a very active life, and on one hand that has helped keep me fit. On the other hand, that's put a tremendous amount of wear and tear on my body. And you know, I've always wanted to do a long hike like this, but over the last few months I've been giving myself a little test to see how strong and fit I am, and the data I'm getting back has not been the greatest. But, you know, it is what it is, and this is what I got. So I'm starting. This is the first section. It's 16 miles long. I'm going to take a gigantic 3 days to get it done, which means I'm going to be, you know, wimpy 5 miles days, which is fine. It means I get to be out here in the woods, which is fantastic. But at some point, I'm going to need to get up to, you know, 10 miles, 15 miles to actually complete the thing. So if I'm doing the math right now, I'd say the chances of completing the trail, all 480 miles, is rounded to the nearest whole number, 0. But, you know, I got a sub-goal. One is a minimum requirement of making it 100 miles on the trail. And then a secondary goal is to make it to Salida, which would be 250 miles. If I did that at 64, I'd be pretty happy. If I go farther, all the better. But the key is what I'm doing right now. Every mile I'm taking a break. That means I don't cover a whole lot of ground, but it also means I don't get injured. And I think the game of exercise in your 60s is number 1 goal is do not get injured, because your recovery time is going to be so crappy. First injury, you're done. So I'm going to sit on my butt here. The river's right over here. Watch the world go by, and a little bit, start hiking again, and do a second mile. 2 miles, holy smoke. Well, this is break number 2. The weather report said no chance of rain till Wednesday. And of course it's raining. But imagine that. I'm here underneath this shelter. Wait, shelter. Probably go like this, you can see the shelter. So I guess that's a lucky break for me. What do you know? Yep. So this is the end of day 1. I'm supposedly at 7 miles, although my Apple Watch, of course, doesn't agree with that, but I'm going with the trail guide, I guess, instead. Everything's worked so far. Knee is still whiny because of the ski season, but at this point I have, 9 more miles to go over 2 days, so that should be fairly weeny. And once again, there's no rain today. These raindrops that are landing on me right now, we're not in the forecast, so it's probably just the nerve damage. So anyway, I'm gonna go sleep in that thing, and then update you guys in the morning. See ya. Now this is more like it. Sure, Waterton Canyon was beautiful, and it was great having that gentle slope on a broad gravel road to start with on my first day. But it is called, after all, the Colorado Trail, not the Colorado Dirt Road through the municipal waterworks. So, I camped down there in the trees yesterday, and that was the first available campsite because of the restrictions in that canyon, which means I did 7 miles instead of my warm-up 5-mile days that I'd like to do. Of course, it means I have very little to do in the next 2 days. So this is actually the second break of day 2. First one's down by the creek, filled up full of water. So it turns out my capacity at this point is 3.5 quarts of water. So, 1 quart shy of a gallon. And, I made it a day and a half and 9 miles. So that's that little data point right there. Of course, the water is in the creek, and they keep the creeks down in the bottom of the valley, which, after climbing to the top of the ridge, it'd be nice if they put the creek up there so I could get my water. But as is like standard around here, for whatever reason, they put the creeks right at the very bottom of the valley. Where it makes a little V, that's where they put the creek. So you have to hike all the way down there. Now, on the way down, very obviously, the National Forest Service came out here and made a trail. On the way back out of here, the last mile was like 400 feet. And it was just, it was obviously probably some old mining access trail. So it was like up, really teeny little steps, going really slow. But I'm at my mandatory even mile break. So, but, it's halfway through the day. I've only got a couple more miles to go today. And then it will be time to set up camp and loaf off some more, because, that's really the plan, is let's hang out in the woods. Yeah, this is camp number 2. The wind has finally come up. I got here early and thought I was going to chill out, but just been flies swarming me. The other curious thing about this whole chunk of the trail is it must be under one of the approach routes to Denver International. There are planes going pretty much constantly, and you can hear them throttle back and hit the air brakes, and you get this great big descending as they start to descend into the airport, or at least get ready to descend in the airport. I'm over 11 miles now, supposedly 11.8, which means I've got under 5 miles to do tomorrow, where my buddy's going to pick me up. And, so far this has been a successful test run on the very first section of the trail here. By the way, bringing an iWatch on a trip is kind of a pain in the ass. I got this solar charger. Solar charger charges a battery. The battery charges the iWatch, but it turns off. It will charge like for 2%, then turn off, and charge another 2%, turn off. And you got to do this like 30, 40 times over the period of like hours. It becomes this endless bit of maintenance to deal with this piece of shit. And eventually it will charge up to 100%. I don't know. At some point last night when I just gave up on it, instead of coming back and realizing that it charged only for 2 minutes and shut off, it had actually charged for like an hour, which meant it was fully charged. So I'm trying again. I've got it all the way up to 17%. That's taken about 2 hours. Not because it's taken 2 hours to charge it, but because I forget to come over here every 3 minutes and turn the charger back on and turn it 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 back on. Holy smokes. A tree just fell in the woods, and because I was here, I heard it, which means I just performed a very important service for the rest of the world, because I made it audible because I was here to hear it, right? Are hiking videos actually interesting? I have to say, in my case, if they're just about hiking, no. I mean, hiking is a rewarding experience, but to watch somebody else do it, gets kind of dull kind of quick. However, I've seen some great YouTube videos about hiking, but they're not really about hiking. They're stories about people's lives with the background of hiking. And I think that makes the difference. So I'm going, like, if I'm going to make this interesting, maybe I have to tell my story, which I say with a little bit of reluctance, but let's give it a shot. I've done this in the past with friends and I've failed, but I think I've got a way to really talk about this at this point. See, here's the deal. I have a lifelong respiratory condition that's gone undiagnosed basically my entire life. Undiagnosed was the great part. Misdiagnosed was the part that really sucked. And it goes like this. The body needs air. Air goes in your mouth. It's got to get down to your lungs here. And in between, you have your airway. Now, during the day, like everybody else in the world, I'm completely unaffected by this thing. Oh, by the way, we're going to have airplane noise because we are under that vector airway. So what the heck, if you can hear that. So during the day, I'm completely unaffected by that. And that's because my body has muscle tone. You can think of the airway at that point as being, say, a long piece of uncooked macaroni, meaning it's stiff and solid. There's this open tube for air to go in and out. As a matter of fact, that's true probably half the time that I'm asleep also. However, when you enter into deep sleep, what your body does is it disconnects all muscle function, all muscle tone. Everything relaxes. And that once uncooked long piece of macaroni turns into a cooked piece of macaroni, which means it collapses down and restricts the amount of air I can get. Now, deep sleep is the time where you do most of the restorative tasks that are necessary for a person to be healthy. And where you might get 4 hours of deep sleep, I get maybe 40 minutes. And that might sound, okay, maybe about a fifth of normal, but it's not even that good, because of that 40 minutes, it will be cut into 7, 8, 10 different sections, because here's what happens. So I go into deep sleep, everything relaxes, my breathing gets really restricted, like hard to breathe. This means instead of relaxing and restoring my body, doing all that maintenance, sleep then becomes more of an athletic event. I'll wake up with my chest tired from the work of trying to breathe. And why it's split up into all these different sections is because at a certain point the body goes like, we're not getting crap for air, and then pops me up into the lighter sleep so that I can continue to breathe normally. Now the problem is that if I stop breathing altogether, I could get on a CPAP machine and it would force air down my lungs and work. But given that the airway is still open, just restricted, those things don't really work, along with a host of other things that I've tried over the last few years. But what this means is when I wake up in the morning, I am exhausted. It is the most tiring thing I do. These days, hiking on the trail with a full pack is not as exhausting as sleeping like that. So whatever rest I get, I need to get in the day. And I've reflected that part of the reason that I've had such an active life is because to me, it feels more normal to be exhausted while exercising than exhausted while sitting around. So if I have the choice, I'd rather be moving than to be stationary. And this gets into why I've been moaning about injuries and aches and pains and being careful to take lots of rest and breaks is because I don't get that restorative quality of sleep. I stay injured forever. I have colds forever. And this is all because I really only get precious minutes of restorative, restful sleep, even though every night I am consistently unconscious for 8 hours. Does that make this story more interesting when I'm out here with that condition and my age trying to complete this trail? Nah, I don't know. I often refer when I'm talking to people as Bill's boring story because it's the same old story and it never goes away. Maybe at some point I can get what appears to be the last option, which is surgery. There's over 100 different kinds of surgeries to address things like this. All of them are painful. I'd have to find out somebody who really knows what the hell they're talking about. So here's the weird part. I'm awake and I'm trying to get my rest during the day because that's the only time I get it. Not at night when I'm asleep, or more accurately, unconscious. And right now, I'm breathing along like any normal person would be. And if this is the person you see during the day, but it's not the entirety of what I am. So this is the last break of the first section. I'm almost done. If you look down, let's see, can you see it right about by that pine tree? Oh, thanks for unfocusing. If the camera would stay focused while my finger is there, I could point out the bridge. Well, it's going to do that anyway. That bridge down there is the end of this section. So I'm almost there. My buddy should be down there to pick me up. If not now, he'll be there pretty soon. And gotta say, section 1 so far is a success. And when I say so far, that's kind of ridiculous because I only have to go like 100 yards. So I think I got it in the bag. Anyway, maybe a little outro video of me on that bridge, and then I'm done till section 2. All right, there's the end of the trail. And I think that big white truck is my ride. Not that it's the only big white truck in Colorado, mind you. But I think we're just about done here. Yep, there we go. All right. When I get back on trail, it'll be going over this bridge.